Gone Fishing with Bob and TJ is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Daiwa Rods and Reels, committed to total quality. Humminbird Wide, fish wide open. And Raider Fiberglass Truck Tops, today's value leader.
I don't know what this weather's going to do today, Brad. It's been really crazy. It rained a little bit on the way out. There's just dramatic cold front came in last night, and I just don't know how fishing's going to be.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Wind's been blowing, and one minute you got sunshine, the next it's cloudy. So
we're just downstream of the Dixon Dam on the Red Deer River, and I'm fishing with a good friend of mine, Brad Fenson. And Brad, you've been telling me about this spot for a couple of years. I've never had the chance to get here, but you promised me we're going to catch some big whitefish today.
Yeah, this is a pretty good spot. We get a good fall run of whitefish moving up the Red Deer. And with the dam upstream, they sort of congregate here in these bigger holes. And
oh, I just lost one right there. Maybe they are going to bite today. It's kind of a relaxing day to get out and fish for whitefish. I haven't had a chance to do it for a while, and I really enjoy fishing for them. So
yeah, they're pretty consistent, no matter what the weather pattern. You can usually get into some. And like I said, there's a good opportunity to catch some real nice-sized whitefish in here.
Well, let's get at it and see if we can get a couple.
Sounds good to me.
What we're doing here is pretty simple. We're just kind of casting upstream. Oh, you got another one, Brad?
Yeah.
So he's really fun. We're just kind of casting upstream and letting the weight drift down naturally right out of the water. And it's really critical to feel the bites. They don't bite very hard. And that's kind of what separates the good rocky fishermen from the bad ones, isn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it does. It's really hard to tell a bite from a rock. And when they hit it, you got to set the hook right away or they just spit it right back out. So.
Well, that's the thing with this little tiny mouth. They can inhale it and spit it out really quickly.
Yeah. I find the best thing to do is I always cast quartering upstream and hold my rod tip quite high so that you can feel if a rock is grabbing it gradually or if it's a fish that gives it a quick sharp nudge.
There's an average sized fish there and they really are active. But like Brad said, the reason you keep your rod tip so high, if you keep your rod tip low, you'll get a lot of line laying on top of the water and it really dampens your feel. So by keeping the rod tip really high, you've got a direct line to that weight and you can feel every nudge. And that's really important because you got to be able to separate what's rock and what's fish. And like Brad said, if you miss a bite, they're gone just that quick.
And the other thing I do when my rod is up nice and high like that, I watch through my rod tip. I don't watch the line, and you can usually tell your rod will tell you when it's a bite. It'll shake a little bit harder, a little bit faster. Rocks are more gradual and that bite is pretly sharp. So if you watch that rod tip, you can usually tell if it's a bite.
Well, this is fun. I'm glad you brought me. Oh, I lost them.
Oh, I got mine on.
You got it? Yeah. They're really stacked in that pool down there, and that's really the key when you're fishing for Rockies is once you find a pool of them. Oh, I caught you too. Once you find a pool of them, you know, you're going to find a lot of fish. It's not like you're going to catch one and then not catch any more.
No, they're usually in large schools, especially this time of year. And throughout the winter, they're going to stay in large schools as well.
Well, it's kind of neat when the water's really clear. You can actually see just huge schools of them out there.
There's been some fish rising here today as well.
Like I said,
you're seeing them right on that current line.
Seen a lot of mayflies floating by, and you know, they are pretty opportunistic feeders. But also there's trout in here. It's not necessarily whitefish that are rising out there.
That's right. There's brown trout and rainbows here. There's actually a zero keep on the trout here in this stretch of the Red Deer.
This is a pretty intensely managed stretch of the river, actually.
Yeah, for all species. It's actually, there's a slot limit on the walleye in this particular stretch of the river. and the daily limit is only 2 compared to 3 in the rest of the province. And there's a 0 keep on the trout, both for rainbows and for brown trout.
But really, I mean, these whitefish make the perfect alternative species.
They're a lot of fun, and like I said, there's a lot of fish here. You can come down with your family, and even the kids, although you need to feel that bite, they're eventually going to hook up on one of those fish. Their line's going to be tight when that fish bites, and they're going to end up catching some fish. I've had my kids down here, and it's nothing for them to catch 20 or 25 fish in an afternoon, which is, it's great to take a kid out and keep them encouraged by having them catch fish like that.
This feels like a little better fish, Brad. Not being too proud, I went in and raided your fly box. Brad was really catching a lot of fish, and I had a few hits, but nothing like you were. And then, what's this fly called?
It's a brown hackle peacock, and I fished Rocky Mountain whitefish in a lot of different places in Alberta, from down in southern Alberta on the Old Man River system to up north and all through central Alberta. And the brown hackle peacock seems to be by far their favorite in the fall.
Well, I'm convinced. Like, I took quite a few casts and had a couple bites, and you were catching fish like crazy. This was my first cast with this fly, so I guess, like you say, they are quite a visual feeder, and the water's really clear here.
Yeah, I had almost a hit every single cast when I was using it. It might just be lucky, but that's a nice whitefish, actually, TJ.
That's actually good. He really fought hard, too.
Probably about 2 pounds.
Well, they're really a stout fish. They're quite broad across the back, and they're heavy boned inside, and that's what gives them their weight. They weigh a lot more than a trout or something that length.
Yeah, for sure. When people are handling these, you'll notice I'm not squeezing at all. You hold their tail to take their power away from them, because if you were to squeeze them on their organs at all, you would hurt them.
There he goes, there he goes. Yeah. Now this fly we're using, it's just got a small red tail, and then the body's actually made from peacock curl, and just a little bit of brown hackle spun around there. And like you said, this is about your favorite fly.
Oh, by far. This is obviously, it's dictating or imitating something that's in the water naturally, because they don't want to let them go by.
What's that, about a size 14?
It's 12 or 14, yeah. Somewhere in there, yeah.
And we're just hanging a maggot or 2 off the back end, and it's that simple. I'm here with Kerry Bruin from Trout Unlimited, and Kerry's going to tell us a little bit about the status of the bull trout in Alberta.
Yeah, bull trout were Alberta's most abundant and widely distributed trout at the turn of the century, and since then they've suffered some very serious declines throughout the province. Now they're generally confined to most of our, or restricted to mountain and foothill streams. Before that they used to extend throughout most of the western half of the province, and they occurred in every major drainage in the province.
Now what do you think caused that decline, Kerry?
There's been a lot of things that have contributed to it. Most people recognize that angler overharvest has probably been the biggest contributing factor, but other things such as habitat degradation, introductions of non-native fisheries have also had an impact.
So what are you, as Trout Unlimited, doing to help the bull trout?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is we're working with other stakeholders such as the Alberta Fish and Game Association, Environmental Protection, and other conservation organizations and government agencies in something that's called the Bull Trout Task Force. And that was established in January of 1993 to stimulate recovery efforts for bull trout.
Now, I know another part of this is angler education, and I know you've got this sign here, and I had an opportunity to drive up the eastern slopes a couple of weeks ago, and there's these signs at every access point to streams.
Yeah, one thing that happened in I guess it was April 1st of 1995 was the province implemented a no harvest regulation for bull trout, and now throughout the entire province anglers have to release all bull trout they capture, and by doing this we're hoping that recovery efforts will be stimulated.
Now you've got the no black, put it back on here. Maybe you can explain that a little bit?
Yeah, bull trout, before you can get anglers to release the fish that they capture, one thing that they have to know is how to properly identify them. And one thing that we've developed to help them identify bull trout is this catchy slogan, no black, put it back. Bull trout are the only stream-dwelling trout in Alberta that do not have black spots anywhere on their bodies. Other fish will have them on their bodies or on their dorsal fin here, but black trout do not have any. So no black means if you catch a trout with no black spots, put it back.
Now, the bull trout's also received some official recognition in the province.
Yeah, that's correct. One thing that's really help to increase awareness of the bull trout's plight and among the general public as well as anglers is the fact that they are now a provincial emblem. And what this means is that the province is also taking some very strong responsibility for the species' future.
So what do you see for the future of bull trout in Alberta?
I think things are looking a lot better than what they did even as recent as 4 or 5 years ago. People understand bull trout are in trouble, and most of our studies and interactions with other people show that people are beginning to really care about it. People are beginning to really care about it too.
Now, not only are bull trout protected in the province of Alberta, Parks Canada became quite involved in protecting them as well.
Yeah, that's true. These no-harvest regulations occur throughout the province. In fact, Banff National Park was the first jurisdiction to implement the no-harvest regulations, and that occurred in 1994.
So what do you see for the future of bull trout in Alberta?
I think things are looking a lot better than what they did even as recent as 4 or 5 years ago. People understand bull trout are in trouble, and most of our studies and interactions with other people show that people are beginning to really care about it too.
But the bull trout's in real dire straits right now, and it's taken these really drastic measures, and that's probably the only thing that's going to save them, isn't it?
That's true. They're a species of special concern in Alberta. In the United States, or even in worse shape, that they may soon be listed as a threatened or endangered species under their Endangered Species Act.
Well, I'm glad that groups like yours and the Alberta Fish and Game Association have taken these steps to do this, and hopefully it does hold something bright in the future for the bull trout.
Whoa, don't let...
There we go, got one.
You got one, bud?
Yeah.
You seem to be just out in that fast current.
Yeah, just out past the breaks there. Feels like a little better one.
We're fishing on the Red Deer River here, just downstream of the Dixon Dam, and what we're fishing for is Rocky Mountain whitefish. And what happens this time of year, and this is mid-September, all the fish start to move up here, the Rockies, and they actually spawn up here, Brad.
Yeah, they move up just below the dam and they hold here and actually spawn within the first couple miles downstream. And then they use this area as well for wintering habitat.
This is quite the bread and butter fishery for Alberta. Like, a lot of people come and fish for whitefish.
Yeah, there's a lot of streams in Alberta that have Rockies, and a lot of people take advantage of them. They're fairly popular fish with high limits. They're fairly numerous.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can come out and actually take some home to eat, and you're not hurting the populations at all, and they're an excellent eating fish.
They're a hard fighting fish too. Like,
yeah,
they're a good sport fish.
Yeah. Fish are actually fairly fragile. Their scales come off quite easy, and so we're just going to use this landing net on them here and get them back in the water. Well, that one's got quite the scar on it. And there's also some pike and walleye and things in these waters, and I'm sure they prey on them. Whoa!
They're hard to hang on to.
They are.
Yeah, they're so cylindrical that they've got no shoulders on them. Come straight back. Got quite a unique mouth. Subterminal mouth means their bottom jaw is shorter than their top jaw. They feed a lot right close to the bottom on invertebrates and insects that
I'm just going to get him back. He really wants to.
Broken loose from rocks and are floating along the bottom of the river.
Your job as the Habitat Development Coordinator for the Alberta Fish and Game Association must take you all over the province, Brad?
Yeah, actually I do. I cover the whole province of Alberta. We have, have 114 clubs in the province, and my job is to coordinate the volunteer effort in habitat initiatives.
Here's one.
Doesn't take long, does it?
You guys also try to acquire some habitat, like critical habitat that has to be protected, and you work with landowners too.
Absolutely. We have a wildlife trust fund which was designed to purchase critical habitats in Alberta, whether they're fisheries or wildlife, and set them aside in perpetuity to make sure that they remain there for the resource. We've purchased several properties in Alberta with walleye in mind and other fish. Our most recent acquisition was on Pigeon Lake. There's a creek there that's critical to the walleye spawning. Oh, this is a nice one, TJ.
Big fish, yeah.
And we purchased that to make sure that that spawning bed in that creek always remains intact.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people think of the Fish and Game Association as, just a bunch of guys getting together and having trophy nights and stuff like that, but it's a big organization that does a lot of good for the province, and without it, I mean, it's the sportsman's voice.
Absolutely. Actually, out of the 114 clubs that we have, at least half of them do habitat projects in a year. Anything from putting up nest boxes for waterfowl or bluebirds to the fisheries research projects, helping out with the Fish and Wildlife Division when they need manpower on some of their studies. There's lots of different ways people can get involved, and a lot of people are getting involved just so that they can have that hands-on experience with the resource.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm just going to get him back.
Kind of neat to be able to go out and help set a test net and find out what types of fish are in our lakes and streams, and help to design management strategies. And I think everything's leaning towards that with the public nowadays, trying to get the public more involved so that they understand the concerns and understand the issues regarding fisheries in the province.
Well, I think you're doing a lot of good work out there. Well, I think that was probably the biggest fish so far today.
Yeah, I think it was too. It was probably pushing 3 pounds.
You might have me on numbers, but I think I finally got you on size. There's a big one, Brad.
Yeah, it's a better fish, that's for sure.
Net on him for you?
They sure try to get back out to that current. They're continually pulling to get back out there.
The whole body shape's designed to utilize that current.
Yeah.
And they really use that tail hard.
Yeah, you can see it on the surface there. It just can go on non-stop.
I think this might be bigger than the one I caught. Yeah, there we go.
The fish do get quite a bit bigger than that.
That's a nice one though, right there.
Yeah.
It's a good sized Rocky. Let's look him back. He's ready to go. I can't believe how thick they are across the top of the back.
Yeah, they're actually fairly deep too.
Yeah. There we go. He didn't know he was let go. Slowly got. Boy, they ever blend into the bottom though.
Yeah, they look just very similar to the rocks here.
Yeah, I think that that's a good camouflage. They are preyed pretty heavily upon, by some of the bigger predator fish. And, that's one of their defense mechanisms is hiding down in the rocks. And I think that's part of a lot of the reason why they do hang out in the rocks like this.
Yeah. In this river system here especially, I would imagine the brown trout and walleye, pike, burbot, a lot of things would be feeding quite heavily on the Rocky Mountain whitefish.
Well, that's especially true in here. Like you take the upper bow or somewhere like that, there probably isn't a lot of fish that would prey on them. But the Red Deer River, there's a lot of big predator fish in it. And, yeah, undoubtedly. And that's probably a lot of the reason why the walleye and the browns and the pike grow so big too.
Yeah, it's almost amazing that it's such a great fishery and there's so many fish here when there are so many predators. Must be just the right amount of habitat or something that...
Yeah, it's obviously pretty fertile. Boy, the fish are really rising out here. There's a little bit of a mayfly hatch going on.
There's one.
Oh, another one.
Yep. Just hit it right again, right at the bottom end of that current where it comes against the slack water.
I noticed you did something there. You put some fresh bait on.
Yeah, quite often if you're fishing for a while and you haven't caught a fish, if you put a fresh maggot on, you'll bang into one right away.
Well, these maggots really leave a scent trail behind them, and I think that's important, especially in these faster flowing rivers, is the fish really rely on that, sense of smell to locate their prey.
Oh, absolutely. Especially these whitefish, they're visual feeders, but they got a very keen sense of smell as well. They don't miss too much. So.
I just had one there too.
Double header.
Well, that looks like a nice one. You want the net here, Brad? Sure. But maggots seem to work the best for this, although you were saying the Berkeley Power Wigglers also work quite well.
Oh yeah, I've used the Power Wigglers here when I have, stopped in to fish the river and I didn't have any maggots with me. I always carry some power bait with me and they're quite effective.
It's amazing. I mean, you can come out here and fish basically for about $1 a day for the amount of tackle and bait and things you need.
They're an interesting fish too. Like they're fairly wide. They're chunky fish. They're deep and wide.
A lot of good eating there.
Yeah.
They're sure built for this fast water though. Like they're so streamlined, and the way their fins are, I mean, they're really built to sit in this fast water and feed in it.
Yeah, they're very efficient. These plants will come in quite handy if you run out of bait or forgot to pick some up. Inside these little tubercles, the insects get inside and parasitize the plant. And inside of them, if you cut them open, you'll find that there's some fresh bait. And you can just see him here where he's been feeding on the plant and parasitized it to form the ball, which makes them easy to find. That's about as fresh as bait as you're going to find, and quite often there'll be several of them in here. If we cut it open again and split it, you'd probably find even more. But there's a fresh maggot for you to use if you're out fishing and you need some extra bait. You can find these right along the streams and lake shores almost anywhere in the province. Oh, that looks like a good fish, TJ.
Yeah, it feels
wow,
like
it just jumped there.
Well, we got a lot of interesting fisheries management issues going on in Alberta right now, and I know you're pretty involved in those through your involvement with the Fish and Game Association.
Yeah, actually, we have representation in a lot of fisheries management issues. We got some species that have some special concerns right now, the bull trout and the walleye. And I sit on both the bull trout task force and the walleye task force. Boy, that's a nice fish, TJ. There we go. That's the biggest one of the day if you can get him in here.
I can get him in.
Wow. That is a trophy whitefish.
That is a good
Absolutely. That is a trophy whitefish.
Man, that's a heavy fish.
Yeah, it's a big female. You can tell the extended stomach on her.
Boy, that's a good one, isn't it? It's got to be close to 4 pounds, I would think. Wow. I'm going to get her back. She's obviously up here to spawn.
Well, you said I couldn't outfish the host, and you meant it. That's a dandy.
Yeah, I'm just going to get... Wow, look how big she is across the back, though. That's incredible. The gear we were using for the Rocky Mountain Whitefish today wasn't too sophisticated, but it sure was effective. Now, the heart of the rig was a 3-way swivel. We just tied the main line from the rod to one side, and we had a dropper off the bottom tied to a weight. Now, we were using a bell sinker today because there wasn't a lot of snags, but you could also use a nail or a bent coat hanger if you're in an area where there's a lot of rocks and snags are concerned. Now, you want a short dropper on there because you want this fly running really close to the bottom. Now, off the other side of this reel, we have about a foot-long leader running to the fly itself. And the fly was the real key today as well. We were using a brown hackle peacock. About a size number 12 or 14 seemed to be the best. And we just put a maggot on the back of that. And if you look at maggots real closely, there's 2 little black dots on one end, and that's the end you want to hook them in. And just hook them through a little fold in the skin like that. You wanted that maggot to be really lively. That seemed to be a real key for catching these Rocky Mountain whitefish today. Hey Brad, what an incredible day out there. For not knowing what we were going to do this morning, things turned out great. Must have got 50 or 60 whitefish out there. I can't think of a better place to go than the Red Deer River for Rocky Mountain whitefish.
On behalf of the Bull Trout Task Force, I'd like to present you with this print at this time as well. This is for helping us to create awareness for the species and help us inform anglers about the special concerns that this species has.
Oh Brad, I really appreciate that. That's gorgeous. Because of groups like the Alberta Fish and Game Association and Trout Unlimited, this bull trout recovery program is happening. Make sure you do support them. Join us next time on Gone Fishing.
Gone Fishing with Bob and TJ is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Daiwa Rods and Reels, committed to total quality. Humminbird Wide, fish wide open. And Raider Fiberglass Truck Tops, today's value leader. Other support courtesy of the following companies: